How's that? Thank you, everyone. I am Ed McCann. I'm the founder of Writers Read, and I am your host for today's show. As many of you know, Writers Read gives voice to the stories that bind us. We are a nonprofit organization with a mission to create performance opportunities for writers. And we do that while also creating memorable experiences for you, our guests, our YouTube viewers, and for the writers whose work that we feature, whether they are established or emerging, whether they're published or not, because at Writers Read, it is all about craft. And all the writers that we feature on our stage and our YouTube channel and on our podcast, those stories are a maximum of 650 words. So that's a 2-page, 12-point, 1-inch margin. It's just those 2 pages, which translates to a 5-minute spoken word performance. And we are delighted to return again to City Winery's beautiful flagship location here on Manhattan's West Side to celebrate writers and writing with you. The theme of today's event is television. And our editorial team of Steve, David, Rhonda, Lisa, and Christine reviewed a lot of submissions on this topic, and they helped assemble the fine cast of writers that you're about to meet, each of whom has a unique and literary take on the theme of television. So we're going to get right to it. Writer Lynn Edelson opens the show, and she has been writing memoir pieces for more than 15 years, pieces that really should be assembled as a collection called a memoir. You think? That's right. Her narrative essays have appeared in the New York City Listen to Your Mother show, the Writers Read Carnegie Hall Voices of Hope Festival, Her Story blog, Every Family's Got One, and the Westchester Review, among others. And while Lynn is not one to brag, I can do that on her behalf. She was also a finalist for the 2023 Eunice Williams Nonfiction Prize. She is the mother of 2 grown sons who each have their own kids now, which pretty much guarantees they will not be buying her that beach house that she has been dropping hints about for so many years. She lives in the Hudson Valley with her husband Michael and their very bad dog, all of whom have fallen under the spell of Korean language television shows, or K-dramas, on Netflix. Here to read her story, me and Patti, please welcome back to the Writers Read stage, Lynn Edelson.
Smith is sitting in front of the camera, calmly stroking her cat, her long gray braids falling past her shoulders. She is telling her Instagram followers that she's been getting through the fatigue of winter by watching films at the IFC Center in Manhattan and reading. I've also been writing, struggling a bit truthfully, but having some progress, she says. And I don't know if you have Netflix, but they have good stuff on it, including my beloved K-dramas. I have Netflix. And my favorite thing is Alchemy of Souls. She pauses and smiles. It's such a great offering. So, if you put me in front of the camera, the script might be different. My hair is also long and streaked with gray, but it hangs in a straggly mess past my shoulders. And there's a golden retriever on Prozac nudging my arm, demanding to be petted. What have I been doing to get through the fatigue of winter? I wake up, drink 2 cups of coffee, and sit down to write without making much progress. So yes, struggling a bit. I don't watch independent films or read the books that Patti does. Actually, I don't read books at all because I fall asleep trying. Mostly, I plan my day around what time I can get to the couch to watch another episode of Alchemy of Souls. An offering, she says? No, it's an addiction. The day I was running a fever, I began watching at 10 a.m. My husband sat next to me. Both of us splayed out on the couch, eating popcorn and pasta until 8 p.m. I should feel humiliated, but I had a fever, for God's sakes, so no judgments here. There are a total of 30 episodes, each one running 70 minutes. What have I been doing to get through winter? I've been watching each one. Actually, watching each one twice because they're complicated and there's a lot to figure out. And it's an addiction. Alchemy of Souls is a Korean fairy tale set in a time and place that doesn't exist. There are good guys and bad guys, sword fighting, and magic spells, and romance. It's akin to the West Wing, but with magi who strive to live their lives with honor and still win the war. The Korean pop music that plays in the background is nothing I would ever choose to listen to, but here I am most days humming along with the earworms that now haunt me. I peer at the television screen to read the English subtitles, insisting that my husband turn up the volume. I don't speak Korean, but you can only fully feel the emotions of the characters if you can hear it in their voices. The language was bewildering to me at first, but now I sense the melody in the flow, in the pauses of the consonants as the vowels surge. Alchemy has become part of our family culture. Are you my Naksu? My husband says as he hugs me. Naksu is the warrior assassin who's lost her sorceress powers and she must hide her true identity. She protects those she loves and glares at those who have done her an injustice while muttering my favorite words. When I get my powers back, I will kill him. She is my queen. Okay, I lied. We watched Alchemy 3 times, maybe more. And it's been the gateway to our addiction to K-dramas. We now recognize many of our favorite actors in different productions, which kind of makes us feel like townies. Our friends are unable to understand how we can be seduced by what they mistakenly believe to be foreign soap operas. Some are, it's true. And we are now more discriminating than most people unfamiliar with the genre. But those same friends are starting to ask us for recommendations since K-dramas have become a thing. And we have a list of about 50 in case you need one. And if you happen to run into Patti Smith, tell her there's plenty of room on my couch and enough popcorn for 3.
Betsy Friedman is a very proud member of the Directors Guild of America and also the Teamsters Union Local 817, where she has been very proudly working on both film and television for over 2 decades. She's a 2-time Moth Story Slam winner, and she's had a piece published in the New York Times complaint box on the day she left her marriage, though she says she then had no husband to share the big news with. She lives in the Bronx with her teenage daughter Liv and their tuxedo cat and says she feels truly blessed to be here right now, something she attributes to her incredible family and friends, her recent double knee replacement surgery, Duran, oversized eyeglasses, Lloyd's carrot cake, and her emergency contact, David. Betsy has tried to get straight to the point in a few short sentences many times in her life, but often struggles to do so, which is why she's here right now to present her TV story, Navy Blues and Polished Shoes. Making her first trip to our stage, please give a warm Writers Read welcome to Betsy Friedman.
Her name was Felicia. She had a tin clipboard under one arm, and she wore cargo pants with this walkie-talkie twirled by this wire, and it was clipped to her pocket. And on the walkie was a pink fluorescent strip of tape, and it was labeled very simply in black Sharpie, Felicia, key PA. I knew PA stood for production assistant, but I didn't know what it meant. But Felicia, she knew everything. And the first thing she did was tell me the rules of being a PA in the movie and television business on really any set. This particular set being Law and Order, Season 7. Dun, dun. And these are some of what she said. Number 1, food is extremely important to your actors, otherwise known as first team. Don't mess up first team's food ever, ever. You have a first teamer who wants rounded ice cubes with a hole in the middle. You just find the round ice cubes with the hole in the middle. If catering has 2% milk, but first team wants skim, don't even think of replacing the milk. You find the skim. First teamers can somehow always taste the difference in such milk percentages. Number 2, don't lie, except when first team asks when the camera's ready. If the camera's ready in 20 minutes, you have to tell them the camera's ready in 15. And when you think about it, here's why. First team needs at least 2 minutes to change from comfortable shoes to the uncomfortable pointy ones that will be seen on camera. Or there are touch-ups with the hair and makeup team to do that on the side of the set. Perhaps there's a conversation brewing with the director, and that's hardly ever just a sec. Either way, you need the extra few minutes once you get first team closer to camera. Lying is only okay if it helps safely move along the shooting day. Number 3, weekends. Plan ahead. Sometimes a shooting day goes all night on a Fraturday, and that's what we call a Fraturday. So you can do a few things when you wake up. You can do your laundry at the laundromat. You can have dinner with your friends. You can clean your apartment. You know, a few things, but you can only pick 2 because you're going to be so tired you can't do all 3. Number 4, don't ever be late. If your call time is 6 a.m., you get there at 5:30. Just do it. Just be early. You won't be paid for being early, but you'll probably be hired again. And that really, really means that people notice when you're not on time. Like they really, really notice. Just don't do it. Don't be late. Number 5, finally, don't wear new sneakers. Wear old broken-in ones. Don't waste money for new sneakers on set. Just don't. Your soles will hurt like hell as they are breaking in. So, of course, day 1, I was wearing my brand new Asics I bought on 14th Street the day before. And I just said, God, lessons for life, Felicia, lessons for life. She looked at my feet, nodded, and she handed me a walkie with a pink tape labeled Additional PA. And it was spelled ADD apostrophe LPA in black Sharpie. Felicia instructed me to head to my lockup, which is where I'd stand to keep everyday pedestrians out of the camera shots. My lockup was by Canal and Broadway, a few blocks from where Jerry Orbach and Benjamin Bratt did their walk and talks in their detective navy blues and polished shoes. I'd never see any of their action, but I'd hear about it on the walkie whenever the assistant director on set shouted, "Here we go, let's lock it up." I'd hold up pedestrians for a few minutes and hope they didn't hate me for the inconvenience of waiting, or worse, that they would totally ignore me and continue walking anyway in their busy lives then and there and through the portal of television magic. And I quickly discovered that most New Yorkers were just not awestruck by television magic. In fact, so many cursed me out on their way to work, on their way from work, walking their dogs, walking their strollers, moving day, leaving in an all-night rager at the Tunnel Club, jogging, groceries. One gallery owner threw raw eggs my way and called me a fat hooker. Repeatedly. She took photos of me standing stoically at my lockup, and when I was really close to tears, she just vanished into this arched doorway. And just then, I spotted a nickel on the pavement. It was heads up. And I quickly put it in my jeans pocket for good luck, and it must have worked because my gallerista never returned. And so I wished on that nickel for more days to continue to prove myself on any set that would have me, any. So several hours later, we camera wrapped, and I walked in my new sneakers with my now filthy shoelaces and broken-in soles. And I went to the camper where I first met Felicia, key PA. And she collected my walkie, and she asked if I can come in the next day. Another PA found a staff job on some Michelle Pfeiffer movie, And so there I was on the back of the following day's call sheet known as TBD, next to ADD apostrophe L, PA. And well, I've held on to this lucky nickel for almost 30 years, through thousands of cursing New Yorkers, multiple pairs of sneakers, many fratter days, so many genuine friends for life through our shared experiences. My personal jubilation on discovering not one but 4 bodegas with middle-hold ice cubes. And eventually, and as I moved through the busyness of such a lovely business, my walkie that was labeled in black Sharpie with its own colorful tape that simply said, Betsy. That's television magic.
When 9-year-old Abril Peña's uncle asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up, she happily responded, "I'm going to be an artist and a writer." Her uncle laughed and said, "Wow, you picked the 2 worst paying jobs there are." To make her family really proud, she instead pursued the 3rd worst paying job, working at a nonprofit. Born and raised in Queens, New York, to Dominican parents, Abril is actually both a writer and a social impact professional. Her personal essays have been published in 3 of the Dominican Writers Association's short story collections, and she has served in the nonprofit and social impact spaces, advocating for youth, education, racial and gender equality, and financial literacy, supporting grassroots leaders paving the way for a brighter future. Her contribution to a show is a piece entitled For the Love of TV. Please say hello to Abril Peña.
During the summers that we spent in the Dominican Republic, my little brothers and I would plop ourselves in front of our grandparents' big, fat, gray TV after a long day of sitting in the sun, playing in the water hose, or throwing rocks at each other. See, we weren't spending our summers in the part of DR that you see in the commercials or the travel brochures. We were far from beaches, resorts, and most importantly, Wi-Fi. No, we were in El Campo, where a typical day for us involved going to the neighbor's house so she could see how big we've gotten since the last time she's seen us, or begging our mom for change to buy cold Pepsis at the corner store, and going back home to watch in horror as our grandmother kills a chicken in the backyard for dinner. We visited my mom's hometown in Villa Tapia every summer growing up. During this time, Miguel, Cookie, and I didn't speak Spanish very well, and the kids in the neighborhood, who we affectionately call our cousins, didn't speak much English. However, the language barrier didn't stop us from having fun together, playing catch, or hide and seek, or that one summer that Miguel brought and broke his Nintendo DS. When we finally had enough of being outside, sunburnt and riddled with mosquito bites, we returned to Mama and Papa's house to watch TV. Though we didn't get our usual Cartoon Network or Disney Channel programming at our grandparents' house, we settled for whatever the satellite signal gods would grant us, which was reruns dubbed in Spanish. One hot summer night, our cousins and my brothers and I all sat quietly in my grandparents' living room, in rocking chairs or pillows on the floor, watching Bob Ross. That evening, while the adults were having their after-dinner coffee on the patio, we were so quiet and so focused on the screen. All you could hear was the delicate brushstrokes, the hum of the ceiling fan, and the crickets chirping outside in the dark of the night. Back home in our apartment in the Lower East Side and then various apartments throughout Corona, Queens, the television was the magnet that drew our busy family together. When Mommy would turn on Good Morning America, which was the soundtrack of our mornings, I knew in my half-slumber state that the day had started. On Saturday evenings, when millions of Americans might have been watching Saturday Night Live, we were watching Sábado Gigante, a 3-hour live show featuring comedy skits, advice segments, music, and dance performances. Television in my family was the great unifier of cultures, generations, and languages. Together, we watched hours of reality shows that we compared our own families to, like the misbehaved children of Nanny 911 and the strict mothers of Wife Swap. One of the shows that we most bonded over, perhaps surprisingly, was Golden Girls. It was a show that I always picked to watch when it was on, and over the course of the 30-minute episodes, my brothers and my mom would listen in long enough until eventually they were on the couch with me, cackling over a line delivered by monotone Dorothy or sassy Sophia. I knew the show became a family favorite when I would randomly start singing, "Thank you for being a friend." And Miguel in the kitchen would continue, "Travel down the road and back again." These shows, despite having mostly white casts and showcasing lifestyles we knew nothing about, somehow gave us, the first-generation American children and our immigrant mother, something to bond over. Together on the couch, we explained jokes that either we were too young to understand or my mom couldn't translate on her own. We resonated with dysfunctional families. Sitting on opposite ends of a cultural bridge, television was where we met in the middle. Thank you.
A Los Angeles native who lives in Manhattan's Upper West Side, Carol Perry loves tennis, fitness, travel, and theater, and she has run 2 New York City marathons. She graduated college at UCal Santa Barbara and moved to New York City to attend Cardozo Law School. She worked as a litigator for 3 years before transitioning careers to become a broadcast talent agent and helped to build the IF Management's TV News Representation Department. Her clients are prominent broadcast journalists of all 3 major networks, both domestically and internationally. She loves the close relationships she's forged with her clients and enjoys finding new and innovative ways to advance their careers. Her short story will give you some insight as to how she came to find this calling. Here to present The Gong Show, please welcome Carol Perry.
As a little girl growing up in LA, I had an immigrant mom with a Hollywood dream. Put your cute, curly-haired girl in show business and make her a TV superstar. It started early in life, age 3, the auditions, the rejections, tap class, ballet, jazz, theater, voice lessons, drama, guitar, figure skating, horseback riding, tennis, you name it, even baton. Anything to spice up that composite, also known as a headshot. And my overweight Romanian stage grandmother was my unofficial bodyguard who spoke 0 English, but it was able to protect me from any other girls who could potentially sabotage my success by stomping on my toes and injuring me before any big dance audition. I wasn't particularly fond of being the center of attention. It was definitely my mother and grandma living out their immigrant dreams through me. But I cooperated. I became quite the tap dancer, amongst other things, and I had my very first kiss with a boy in drama class. Luckily, he was super cute, blonde hair with blue eyes, my favorite type at that time, apparently. His name was Arnold, my first childhood one-sided crush and a fake kiss. The hard work somewhat paid off. I did several TV commercials like Mattel and a number of cereal commercials, theatrical productions, auditioned for big movies like Annie. Most of the work I don't remember, but I do remember appearing on The Gong Show, a popular show in the 70s, showcasing talent with 3 celebrity judges. How original. I remember my outfit, my leotard, my hat, and cane, and I remember Patsy from Happy Days, who committed the ultimate brutal act of gonging me during my hat and cane tap performance. I know. So anytime Happy Days was on TV, my mother would curse at Patsy and call him a fucking asshole with her heavy Romanian accent. How do you gong a kid, you idiot? So I had many rejections I had overcome as a child actress, but the Gong Show was a pivotal moment in my life when I decided it was time to stand up to my mother. At the ripe age of 10, my domineering stage mother and I had our very first fight, where I absolutely refused to perform anymore. At that point, I had become quite fluent in Romanian cursing. She, along with my grandma chiming in, threatened to cut me off from all of my lessons. Little did they know that it was the biggest relief of my life. I had been doing this since I was 3 years old, and I was done. So fast forward about a decade later, I left LA to study law in New York City. I went on to become a trial lawyer, and then realized I detested the performance piece of litigation. After 3 arduous years of practicing law, an opportunity to become a talent agent presented itself, and at my interview, I am convinced that it was the Gong Show story that got me the gig. I had come full circle, and I knew this new career was meant to be. 24 years later, I now represent some of the most talented television broadcast journalists in the news business, and I understand all the insecurities involved in performance, the rejection, the craving for acceptance and acknowledgement. And I truly savor being such a big supportive part of my clients' lives and helping them succeed on TV. Even though I suffered irreversible trauma on the Gong Show, I still love to take tap classes in New York City, but I dance way in the back now, on my terms, reliving my childhood memories of my upbringing in the TV business.
You may have noticed that Neal Gomberg is the only male member of our cast today. This just happens that way sometimes, but he did want you to know that in solidarity with the rest of the female cast, he did shave his legs this morning. So, Neal is an advertising copywriter who often wonders why. He's written hundreds of print and digital ads along with numerous TV commercials, and he's also a part-time singer-songwriter who performs locally. Neal has penned songs for several of his TV commercials, and he's recorded an album of original compositions with members of Bob Dylan's band. Currently, Neal works from home as a part-time freelance copywriter, which provides him with ample opportunities to write songs, work at a glacial pace at his first novel, learn card tricks, and lastly, do what he truly excels at, which is napping. Neal resides in Chappaqua, New York, with his psychologist wife, their 2 lovely daughters, and he says, a reasonably attractive new oven. His television story is called The Wonder of My TV Commercial, and here he is to present it. Please say hello to Neal Gomberg.
I'm an advertising copywriter, and this is a true story about a TV commercial I wrote back in the 90s, when commercials were still entertaining and boasted fun, memorable slogans like, "Got milk? Where's the beef?" And the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. These days, the only slogan I can't get out of my head is, "Shingles doesn't care." I wrote this commercial for American Express promoting their partnership with a hunger relief organization called Charge Against Hunger. The spokesperson in my commercial was not some no-name actor or garden variety celebrity. He was, in fact, Stevie Wonder. I was about to say, yes, that's Stevie Wonder, but I doubt you're thinking, I wonder if it's the Stevie Wonder who's in my book club. I spotted him immediately upon entering the TV production studio, sitting appropriately enough at a piano, and looking exactly like Stevie Wonder. He was wearing aviator sunglasses, his iconic cornrows, and a black outfit festooned with some sort of abstract African design that I could swear I'd also seen on my mother. I took a prolonged, deep breath and introduced myself, and Stevie Wonder responded with, "Hey, I'm Stevie Wonder." I then was rendered speechless by being in the presence of Stevie Wonder, who fortunately was not rendered speechless by being in the presence of me. Neal, Stevie Wonder said. Yes, I replied, tad lightheaded, being that Stevie Wonder had just spoken my name. Stevie Wonder then asked, have you ever been to a Passover Seder? Now, the reason this question didn't strike me as totally out of the blue was that the previous night was the first night of Passover, and scores of Jews, me among them, had attended a Passover Seder. Yep, I replied, I'm Jewish, so I've been to tons of Passover Seders. Well, Neal, Stevie Wonder said, last night I went to my first Passover Seder. I said, oh, what did you think? It was cool, Stevie Wonder said. I didn't understand the Hebrew, and the gefilte fish was pretty nasty, but the brisket was excellent. Actually, the only part of the Seder that was kind of messed up was when I tried matzah for the first time. Someone passed me a piece. At this point, Stevie Wonder pantomimed feeling a piece of matzah, saying, I felt those little bumps, on the matzah, and said, who wrote this crap? I was stunned into silence, unsure how to respond, but then he launched into a loud cackling laugh, and I realized that Stevie Wonder had just told me a Passover joke about Stevie Wonder. From that moment on, I've loved Stevie Wonder exponentially more. It also helped that he was a total mensch who did a first-rate job of speaking my written words like give to the charge against hunger and join the fight against hunger. Stevie Wonder even sang an original song about helping the hungry in my commercial. Furthermore, I'm pleased to say that my American Express commercial elicited a record number of donations for the Charge Against Hunger, thanks in large part to Stevie Wonder. All of which explains why I have this recurring fantasy in which I phone Stevie Wonder and announce, I just called to say I love you.
Writer and journalist Sophia Laurenzi grew up in New Jersey. She spent a decade moving from California to Louisiana to Tennessee, and she now lives in Brooklyn. While in the South, she worked as an investigator helping people on death row, and she spent most of her summers eating nothing but tomato sandwiches. After a few cross-country road trips to hike throughout America's West, she made her way back to the East Coast, where she says having a backyard has become 80% of her personality. The other 20% is taken up by her love of karaoke nights. Laurenzi's award-winning writing was a Plowshare's Emerging Writers finalist, and she's been published in Time, The Washington Post, Slate, Wired, and more. A Long Hallway is an adaptation from her forthcoming book, and I am pleased to introduce you to Sophia Laurenzi.
The television show that has had the biggest impact on my life is one that I have never seen, but you may have. Prison Break premiered in 2005 to huge success on Fox about two brothers, one who's been sentenced to death for a crime he didn't commit, and the other who gets himself incarcerated to save him. I became familiar with the premise and brother number two's shirtless, tattooed back, because while I never saw Prison Break, I was devoted to watching Fox's American Idol every Tuesday and Wednesday. I was 11 and odd, practicing Blackbird and Can't Help Falling in Love in the shower. Certain My covers were essential additions to the canon. One night, after a 2-for-1 foot-long Subway ad, the TV cut to a Prison Break teaser. Brother number one wore all white, his head shaved clean. Sweat blistered on his brow as he was marched, shackled, down a long hallway. Cut to what was waiting for him in the next room, an electric chair, empty. I knew executions existed. I was in year 5 of 9 at Catholic school, so I'd already spent almost 1,000 days beneath crucifix-topped chalkboards. Jesus mid-execution on constant display. But Something about brother number one's face launched a hailstone up my throat. I rushed to the bathroom and leaned my forehead against the tile walls. My lungs were sinking useless things, foreign in my body as it grasped for the memory of how to breathe. That night I couldn't sleep. I knew prison break wasn't real, but capital punishment was. And while I lay beneath my lavender and white checkered bedspread, thousands of people slept on thin prison cots knowing that one day they would be pulled from those cells and killed. For months I had nightmares. To combat them, I spent hours on my clunky green laptop reading Wikipedia articles. But even as the reality of capital punishment convinced me to rally against it, I skirted fictional television scenes that would bring back the nightmares and the dread. You don't realize how often the Green Mile plays on cable TV until you're trying to avoid it. I track what to stay away from. The Other Boleyn Girl and the Executioner's Song, of course, but you'd be surprised how many gallows Disney greenlit in Pirates of the Caribbean. I get older and learn how much mental illness and poverty and racism permeate death row. And still I squint at the tiny TV blaring The Crucible in my 10th grade English classroom, trying to keep my breath steady. I pause and play my way through Capote on my then boyfriend's basement television, and I enroll in every class my college offers about the prison system. Finally, I watch Dead Man Walking, and I graduate from school, and I apply to work as an investigator helping people on Tennessee's death row with their appeals. During my interview, an attorney asks what got me interested in this work. Well, I was watching TV one night and this clip from Prison Break came on. I get the job. Just as I start, Tennessee resumes executions for the first time in a decade. Within a year, I am hugging my client goodbye for the last time, a few days before he is marched from his cell, down a long hallway, to a waiting electric chair. He wears all white, his head shaved clean. I don't know if I would have spent the years I did working on death row if those 90 seconds of Prison Break hadn't lodged themselves into my brain. But I do know that all those shows and movies I avoided, then began to watch, let me practice being the person I hoped I could be when it came to it. The kind of person who is not afraid to let their heart break, who does not let feeling preclude doing, or doing preclude feeling, who does not look away.
Ivy Eisenberg is an award-winning humor writer. She's a Moth Story Slam winning storyteller and a comedian who has performed throughout the greater New York City area and in Washington, D.C. Ivy has written, produced, and performed in 2 original solo shows entitled Loud, Large, and Funny and You Would Cry Too. Her work has appeared in America's Funniest Humor Contest, New York Magazine, Tablet, Narratively, Next Avenue, Business Insider, and elsewhere. Ivy also leads storytelling workshops, and she coaches other storytellers. She's working on a memoir about growing up in the groovy and turbulent 1960s in Far Rockaway, Queens, and she closes Act 1 of our show with her story, TV is the Thing This Year. Please welcome back Ivy Eisenberg.
In fall 2019, I achieved a major milestone. Over the course of 10 weeks, I watched 240 hours of Grey's Anatomy, from the first episode all the way to mid-season 16. 350 episodes, 41 minutes per episode, 14,350 minutes, 240 hours. That's 24 hours a week, on top of a full-time job, a writing and performing avocation, a marriage, a weekly commute to D.C., and a normal outer life. I wonder, what could I have otherwise achieved with a focused 24 hours per week? A professional certification? First draft of a novel? I will say that after binge watching this medical drama, I believed I was qualified to practice medicine. What captivated me were these sexy, brilliant women who were professional superstars, beautiful to look at, funny, able to hold their liquor. They had sex during work at all hours in the on-call room, yet performed medical miracles to save lives. They all wore size 0 to 4 scrubs. It made my then 63-year-old heart race as I vicariously experienced bizarre illnesses and accidents, brain tumors, serial killers, bomb threats, and black lace panties. I accomplished the marathon thus. On a weekly round-trip commute between New York City and DC, approximately 20 nights in hotel rooms, and home on weekends. I had Netflix on my phone, my personal laptop, and 4 TVs in my home. The 4-week hiatus of the show in early January was enough for me to get a grip on myself. My 2020 New Year's resolution, in addition to eating less and exercising more, was to break my Netflix addiction. This was harder than quitting smoking 30 years prior. I had a couple of months of normal weekly show watching. New Year's resolutions always begin with such promise. And then, March 2020, as the world shut down for COVID, there was nothing to do but binge eat and binge watch TV. It was then that I discovered Gilmore Girls. The perfect guilty pleasure for a pandemic. Like the Grey's Anatomy women, the Gilmore Girls were whip-smart and funny, overachievers and the object of desire for a parade of cute guys. Instead of excessive drinking, the Gilmore Girls ate gargantuan amounts of junk food and drank gallons of coffee and wore size 0 to 4 jeans. Although Gilmore Girls was a mere 114.75 hours of televiewing, there were countless Facebook fan groups to keep the fascination stoked. I needed to rewatch the series several times to keep up with the trivia. The 90,000-member Gilmore Girls Addicts online group fed its followers endless speculation on the missteps and dysfunctions of the lovable characters. There were debates, quizzes, and drool-worthy pictures of pilgrimages to the Warner Brothers lot in LA, where the fictional star's hollow setting was reenacted and erected and is hauled out for annual events to this day. I knew I was over the edge on this addiction when in 2022, for my 34th wedding anniversary, I dragged my husband to a Gilmore Girls getaway created by the Washington, Connecticut Tourist Bureau to capitalize on Connecticut locations that inspired Gilmore Girls. We ate at the place that was supposed to have a Luke Steiner vibe. We took pictures at the gazebo in New Milford, and we brunched at the famous inn where creator Amy Sherman Palladino conceived of the series. We hit the local bookstore with its shrine to the show and a handout of Rory Gilmore's 200-plus book reading list. In 2024, I alternated between the umpteenth watching of Gilmore Girls and the nail-biting binge viewing of MSNBC. After the election, I hit rock bottom. I crashed. No more cutesy New England. These times called for more darkness. I spent this past December whipping through 121 episodes of Gossip Girl. A frothy drama filled with vicious betrayals, dark characters, lurid scenes, and girls who drink too much, have eating disorders, and wear 0 to 4 evening gowns. Then, Netflix, like God himself, asked, "Are you still watching?" I finally stepped away from the screen.
Gathering like this to share stories and food and wine and community feels really good, and I am so grateful to all of you who turned out today to support these fine writers, as well as the work our Writers Read team does to create this platform, this vehicle to showcase their craft. We are working to grow the organization, to hire some part-time staff, to make the good work available to a wider audience. And a portion of the ticket you purchased today does flow through to us from City Winery, but the real the funds that keep our wheels turning do come directly from you, our friends and our donors. Donations are an investment in what we do, and they are an investment in our mission. They help fund our ability to continue this work. And I ask that you please consider a tax-deductible donation today in any amount that feels right to you. Those gifts mean more than you can imagine. And scanning the code on the back of your program or the green banner in the gallery will take you to the donation page on our website. Another way you could help is don't leave your program behind today. Take your program with you and give it to someone who you think would be interested in what we do. Either a writer who might one day want to appear on our stage, who might want to contribute their writing, or a reader, a listener who you think would enjoy attending one of our shows. I will say that the most effective way that we are growing community and we are growing our reputation, and by the way, we have never had a room this full. I want to say congratulations to you. This is a sellout. But social media marketing is not my superpower at all, and how this organization and how this community is growing is through word of mouth. And I look around the room, and I know there are people who have told other people, and they brought their friend, and it's really exciting the way that happens. So take your program with you, share it with someone who you think would be interested in joining us next time or in sharing their work with us. We're going to pause here for 15 minutes for your servers to take food orders and refill your glasses. And when you hear this bell, please return to your seats for the second half of our show. By the way, for those of you who don't know, I grew up with this bell. I'm the youngest of 6 children, and this is the bell my mother would ring out the back door when it was like time to come. And I'm going to tell you, if she had to ring it a second time or a third time, it was not going to be good. It was not going to be a good thing. So I'm going to ring it once. You'll know what that means. And come on back and join us for a second half of more great stories. I'm Ed McCann. This is Writers Read. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. You are too kind. Writer Julia Moran opens Act 2 of today's show on television, and let me tell you a couple of things about her. She grew up in Rhode Island, and she had many jobs growing up, including delivering the Providence Journal to over 100 houses. She had to leave the state, however, to go to law school so people would stop offering her secretarial jobs. Julia has been a corporate attorney for the last 3 decades, and she lives in Jersey City, New Jersey, and Greenport, Long Island, with her husband and 3 dogs. In her spare time, she goes to yard sales, she fixes up old houses, and she writes. As a kid, she found a sense of family by watching TV Families, which she will now tell you about with her story, TV Mom. Please say hello to Julia Moran.
I was a 70s latchkey kid, single mom, 4 kids. I let myself into our apartment after school and went into my bedroom where there was a TV on the dresser, complete with rabbit ears, which looked like wire clothes hangers to capture the signal. I watched TV Families, the Waltons, the Brady Bunch, even MASH, which I saw as a makeshift family temporarily camping. I mean, they were intense. Sure, there were bombs going off somewhere, but this crew stuck together, stitching up the wounded, healing them. When the Waltons started, I'd sit on my bed mesmerized by the opening music. I'd see dirt roads and an old country house with a porch and a screen door that slammed shut each time a Walton came outside. Ma would scream, "John boy," at dinner time. The Walton family sat down at their farm table, looking at each other, and talked. Someone always had a problem, which the family chewed over in between bites of mashed potatoes. The Waltons had visitors, a lost child or a group of circus performers who found themselves at the door of the welcoming White House, and somehow the family ended up healing them too. The Brady Bunch also had a way of working it out together. There was always someone home, even if it was just Alice the maid, and she always had time for a chat. Here I was in my bedroom, cut off from whatever else was going on in the apartment, hanging with these families, pulling myself into the warmth of their togetherness, getting to know them while they battled challenges that could be solved within 45 minutes, not counting commercial breaks. At one point, my mother became ill. Lady trouble, I was told, and she had to have an operation. I'm a kid, so I picture my game called Operation, where one carefully places a patient's heart back without touching the edges of the slot it fits in, which makes a horrible buzzing sound, which can't be good. So my mom is recovering, and I see my biggest job is staying quiet and out of the way so she can get better. If we were on Walton's Mountain, there'd be a discussion around the kitchen table. On MASH, the doctors would sit by her bed. As usual, I go home after school, let myself into the apartment, thinking about the afternoon TV lineup, and I'm shocked to see a woman I don't know in our apartment. She smiles like Ma Walton. She's wearing an apron like Alice, and she's made a pitcher of Kool-Aid. It's full of red dye, and it has ice cubes tinkling in it. She sits down at the kitchen table and pours me a glass. Someone had decided that we needed this woman in our house to help my mom, and I've gotten myself a real dose of a TV family because someone's here. I never had someone waiting for me when I'd gotten out of school, unless I was in trouble. But for someone to have made me Kool-Aid, wow. I can't tell you what this woman looked like. She was a combination of all TV mothers serving up a nectar of the gods in the form of some time and attention. It was as if I had twisted my TV rabbit ears in just the right direction to transport this Kool-Aid maker into my home. She was a presence, like the MASH doctors who sat bedside. She didn't have to say anything, and for a time, our kitchen was on Walton's Mountain. I didn't sit in my room while my TV mom was at our house. I sat at the kitchen table, listening for the screen door to slam, waiting for the patient to get well. And it worked. My mom recovered.
Nicely done, Julia. I have to say, Julia's reference to Lady Trouble made me remember a friend of mine who once responded to that comment by saying, Lady Trouble? What do you mean? She can't parallel park? She can't get a loan? What do you mean? Anyway, please pardon the typo in your program. Up next is actually Judith Stiles. And if someone here in the audience would like to join our team as, a proofreader behind me, we could probably save on those things. See me at the reception. Judith Stiles earns her living as a potter, turning mud into money in the guise of colorful pots that can last 10,000 years. Throwing on the Wheel has been a quiet enterprise in the tiny town on Cape Cod where she lives, which, by the way, makes her the second place longest commute winner today. We have another one who's even longer. And she's had plenty of headspace to write a novel about all the naughty people of Wellfleet. Her people are a drug thief nurse, fishermen exporters of fentanyl, the old ladies gossip militia, and a potter who specializes in cremation urns for dead New Yorkers and their chihuahuas. They inhabit her novel Hush Little Fire, which is a Penguin Random House 25 Spring Book Club pick, soon coming from Alcove Press. Hush Little Fire. Returning to our stage with Screens First, Candy Second, please welcome back Judith Stiles.
My father held the television set poised on the edge of the windowsill, ready to toss it down to the yard if we didn't stop fighting about cartoons. The battle was over whether to watch Betty Boop versus Popeye, peppered with lots of hair pulling. Noisy kerfuffles like this never happened in our buttoned-up New Jersey town. A grown man yelling out the window that he was ready to murder our beloved TV. My brothers and sisters were about eye level with his back pocket, each of us yanking his pants and pleading for mercy. "No, Daddy, no. We promised to be good." My mother was nowhere to be found during our TV World War III, but she had instigated the battle with a Dr. Spock-inspired TV quota. "You are only allowed to watch 2 nonviolent cartoons or your brain will rot," she ordered, a la Dr. Spock. Mommy was the Cruella de Vil of TV rationing. Little did she know that this righteous rule set the table for a lifelong craving in each of us for maximum TV. I grew up and binge-watched Kojak and any show full of glorious TV violence, always with the specter of Mommy perched on my shoulder, scolding me for watching too much TV. "Children, go outside, get some fresh air, or go to the library." When I became a mother myself, I quickly learned that TV was my new best friend, a good babysitter for my 3 kids that kept them corralled in front of the screen. I was a so-called New Age mother, but I pretty much let them watch whatever they wanted, occasionally suggesting they find something educational when I channeled my own mother's Dr. Spockness. I confess, I had no idea what my kids were watching. But when my 9-year-old daughter declared that she would be a nun for Halloween, I puzzled over whether this was TV inspired, seeing how the kid only set foot in a religious institution once, and that was a Unitarian church, no nuns there. Had she been watching reruns of Sally Field and the Flying Nun? I went along with the Halloween costume idea, even when she insisted on buying a white Bible and wearing a golden cross, and she called herself Sister Mary Holywater. I could see the worry in her father's eyes, a lapsed Catholic, and I told him this was all Sally Field's fault. As a grandmother now, I nervously watched my 3-year-old grandson, Arlo, grab the TV remote and manipulate the buttons at lightning speed, and I can't even locate the on button. Popeye may have faded away into TV history, but Spider-Man lives on in a gazillion mind-numbing cartoons, inhabiting the minds of 3-year-olds. So, it was not surprising he dressed up as Spider-Man on Halloween. But what floored me was how many kids chose to be Spider-Man. TV brainwashing, I wondered. On the night of Halloween, I was shocked to greet my first trick-or-treater, an oversized Spider-Man who arrived with his very tall friends. I found myself looking up at this lummox of a Spider-Man as I humbly held out a bowl of candy. Suddenly, he whipped out an iPhone and stared at the screen, along with his friends for minutes before they scooped up the candy. Screens first, candy second. Dr. Spock presciently wrote, "Young children easily become dependent on TV for stimulation and lose some of their natural drive to explore." But what would Dr. Spock say about the little TV doppelganger hiding in your purse, or the smartphone at the ready in your back pocket? Do we really inhabit a world now of screens first, life second? If Sister Mary Holywater were here in this room right now, standing next to Dr. Spock, she might challenge you to put away your screens for a day, maybe a week, and she'd bet her white Bible and golden cross that you just can't do it.
Writer Sasha Soreff is a Maine native who set off at 16, yeah, Maine, we have some Maine in the house, to become a professional dancer and choreographer. She landed at Barnard for college, and she's been in New York City ever since. A certified resonant healing practitioner, transformational coach, and empathy and movement facilitator, she's passionate about the healing power of embodied expression to navigate loss and uncertainty. In addition to teaching dance, she regularly hosts Studio 54 meets Zoom events, which recreate the legendary Studio 54 nightclub experience via video conferencing, offering a chance to relive the disco era with a virtual dance party. And she looks forward to seeing you soon on her virtual dance floor. Ask her about it at the reception. Sasha's grateful to the Visible Ink writing program at Memorial Sloan Kettering, which brought her back to writing. Oh, we hear more MSK in the house. And a favorite photo of herself is from her toddlerhood, standing transfixed at the television, even though the TV is off. Her story about television and sibling bonding is entitled My Brother and the West Wing. I'm delighted to welcome her to our stage. Please say hello to Sasha Soreff.
What are you two doing up? My dad stomps into the den as my brother and I dive under the quilt on the sofa, pressing ourselves so tightly into the cushions that we believe ourselves to be entirely invisible. Of course, our giggles give us away. Ben and I had snuck downstairs after bedtime to watch Harper Valley PTA, a show that was deemed inappropriate and off limits. We both had crushes, I think, on Barbara Eden, having been wooed by her magic in I Dream of Jeannie. Needless to say, Dad is on to us. Our television-inspired antics continued through our single-digit years. Wonder Twin powers, activate! We cried as we bumped fists, taking the form of tigers and ice, rhinos and waterfalls. I'm a little bit country, I would croon, and I'm a little bit rock and roll, Ben would rejoin as we mimicked Donnie and Marie Osmond to the delight of all the adults around us. Ben revered Magnum P.I. I was all about Wonder Woman. We spent many an hour watching and trying to emulate our heroes. Our propensity to play and role play was matched by our propensity to fight. Though I am almost 2 years older, Ben quickly outsized me. He could, and did, punch and kick and throw things at me. I could, and did, bite and pull his hair. Our parents even took away his Hulk t-shirt, hoping it would curb his aggression. Our fights evolved with age, moving from the physical to the nuanced realm of words and silence. We didn't always fight. At times we got along quite well. But there were these festering pockets of hurt formed by childhood grievances and intensified by our parents' divorce when we were teenagers. By the time we were in our 30s, whole swaths of tension and disappointment had emerged. I have often had the sense that he would like it if his older sister were, well, less like me. Until The West Wing. Can a TV show heal a relationship? Not a grand or complete healing, more like the gathering up of just enough frayed edges to allow some heart back into the connection. Ben was in from the pilot. When he found out I wasn't watching, he admonished me. For as long as I can remember, Ben has unhesitatingly expressed certainty on many matters, including most aspects of my life. But he has always legitimately been an authority on TV and movies, so when he said to watch, I did. I loved it immediately, of course. My chats with Ben soon resembled a mashup of episode discussions, analysis of Aaron Sorkin's symphonic style, and quotes. To enter into West Wing world with Ben was to find respite from sarcasm, impatience, and distrust. If I could respond with the correct next line of dialogue to any quote he offered, I was elated. It felt like I was placing another plank to help repair the damaged bridge of siblingdom. Other planks got placed with West Wing apparel, script books, and DVDs that populated essentially every birthday and holiday gift that we exchanged for years. That "What's Next" baseball cap he got me is still a favorite. The West Wing didn't bring complete rapprochement. We will probably never again be those gleeful, giggling co-conspirators under the quilt. But the show has given me, us, so much more than we had. Maybe one day, my brother and I will find our own words. Until then, there's this scene I love. The president says to the vice president, "I've always liked you a little more than you thought I did." The vice president responds, "I've always liked you more than you thought I did too, Mr. President."
Writer Jayne Whitner is a seasoned creative director who has art directed and written her way through years in the delightful ad business, building brands and telling stories for Burt's Bees, Dove, L'Oreal, Avon, Kellogg's, IBM, Springs Industries, and Hain Celestial, just to name a few. Jayne loves to make people laugh, and she's passionate about lending her talent to nonprofits like Breast Cancer Research Foundation, Breakthrough New York, God's Love We Deliver. She lives on the Upper West Side with, she says, using creative directory adjectives, a fabulous husband, an adorable cockapoo, and a beautiful and talented daughter. Her story, It's All in the Timing, recalls bonding TV time with her father long after Mom went to bed. Jayne still watches a lot of late-night television, and I'm so pleased she joins today's cast of talented writer-performers. Please give a warm welcome to Jayne Whitner.
What great timing. That's the thing about him. It's all in his timing. I'm tucked in among our floral couches, burnt orange corduroy pillows, in the 1970s space in our home, known as the TV room. My dad sits in his Barca lounger, leaned back just enough. His newspaper is crumpled on his lap as we hear the familiar, "Here's Johnny," announced by the rosy-cheeked Ed McMahon. A watered-down scotch sits to my dad's right, and a glass jar of hardened jujubes to his left, the vice that thankfully replaced his Benson & Hedges habit years before. On Friday nights after a party, when I was supposed to be home by 10, I'd come bouncing in to join him at 11:30. He pretended not to notice the time. I hoped he never noticed my cheap high school beer breath. On many weeknights, just as I finished algebra homework, I'd hear Doc Severinsen and his band's signature music from the other end of the house, and I'd run to secure my position in the cushions, front row with my dad. We both loved it all. The opening monologue, a tipsy Ed as the ultimate sidekick, Johnny's deadpan pauses at camera as if he was looking straight through the screen, right at us. I felt so mature getting the jokes and laughing when my dad did. As he said so often while we watched, "Honey, this is 100% pure comedy genius." But to me, it was epic father-daughter bonding. When a high-haired Joan Rivers ventured into dirty jokes that made my dad chuckle, he tried to cover it up with a cough and slight shake of the newspaper. Together, we witnessed a young David Letterman work hard to make Johnny laugh. Johnny's coy flirting with Angie Dickinson, and of course, Jim Fowler's monkey climbing onto Johnny's well-coiffed head and almost always peeing on his impeccably tailored shoulder. My father's large, expressive face lit up with laughter and revealed his deep, well-placed dimples. Sometimes he laughed so hard, tears would roll down his face. The same face of a brave leader who flew a B-17 in World War II, built a thriving business in Manhattan, and raised 3 pretty good kids. It was the face I loved to watch every night. Some shows, we held our breath to see which newcomer stand-up comedian got the nod from Johnny, an invitation to join him on the couch next to his desk. That will change their life forever, my dad said with awe. I'd cross my fingers for the ones who made him laugh the most. Hey, want some ice cream? He'd enthusiastically ask during a commercial break. I think she's got chocolate and coffee in there. The she, my mother, was tucked snugly into bed, seemingly unaware of our late-night routine. This was my time with my gregarious, larger-than-life dad. The two of us focused on that screen that sat under his not-so-pretty prized stuffed swordfish, which hung on the sea of dark wood paneling. We silently got misty-eyed at the last show Johnny hosted in 1992, when an emotional Bette Midler turned from the audience and sang directly to him. One for my baby, and one more for the road. Like Johnny, my dad was much older then, and so was I. I didn't live at home anymore and took the train from Manhattan so we could watch it the way we always had, together. I went to say goodbye to the legendary funny man who was my father's absolute favorite. But more importantly, to say goodbye to that perfect 90-minute ritual with my dad, the funny man who was my absolute favorite.
Writer Susan Smahl is a New York City-based teacher and writer who leads workshops at the CUNY Graduate Center for Older Adults on writing, music, and literature. She's also a visitor experiences volunteer at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and an annual volunteer at several film festivals here in the metropolitan area. In her past professional life, from which she's now retired, she was a learning disability specialist who worked with special education students, staff, and families. She spends some of her downtime on music travel and enjoys making connections through music all over the country and the world. Although she's lived in several other states, Susan is a native New Yorker currently living just 2 blocks away from her very first apartment at age 23 on Manhattan's Upper West Side. Her TV story, Kayfabe, or Everything Real is Fake, is about shared childhood TV time and a kind of tacit agreement with her beloved grandfather. Please welcome to the Writers' Read stage, Susan Smahl.
Grandpa Izzy loved the fights, otherwise known as professional wrestling. That's the only thing that I ever saw him watch on television when back in the 1960s we lived in a 2-family house with my grandparents. They were tasked with watching me and my sisters after school while our parents were at work. After homework time was TV time. My grandfather would sit with us while my grandmother fixed dinner. Sometimes, if she was making chopped liver, that Jewish staple, she would direct Grandpa to a folding chair set up in front of the TV. Grandma would hand him an ancient wooden chopping bowl, nicked and carved with the scratches of 1,000 meals, and a heap full of cooked chicken livers and onions. Grandpa would obediently chop the mixture with an equally ancient red-handled blade. Chuckling gleefully while watching the professional wrestlers contort on the black and white screen, he would shout my grandma's name, "Ray, Ray," whenever he saw a dangerous-looking maneuver. With each thundering slap on the wrestling mats, my grandpa would chop harder and faster. As the fight escalated, so did the chopping. Grandma Ray couldn't care less. She was oblivious. To us kids, it looked disgusting. The chicken livers, greenish, slimy, the smelly onions, and the wrestlers, with their bloody noses and buckets of spit, black bulging briefs, gross mouth guards, and ominous-sounding names. We watched my grandfather watching and were slightly terrified and totally entertained. Full circle evisceration. Short and stout with a heavy Yiddish accent, Grandpa Izzy seemed perpetually happy. To me, he looked like a Jewish Louis Armstrong, Bald, shiny head, round face, and the widest of smiles. He radiated joy, so I was naturally confused as to why he would watch a seemingly violent activity on television and laugh hysterically. His only other entertainment that I knew of was reading the Jewish Daily Forward, gambling a little on the ponies, and weekly Saturday synagogue visits, always followed by shots of slivovitz with the other old men. Watching professional wrestling was the highlight of his week. As the eldest child, I recognized some turbulent days in our family and the world, conflict at home, and constant talk on the 6 o'clock news of the Cold War. Duck and cover, life was a little scary. But each day when Izzy would pick us up from school in his Dodge Dart, stopping to honk at every intersection in our Brooklyn neighborhood to warn the other drivers that he was carrying precious cargo, we felt safe and loved, even if it took forever to get home. The television wrestlers were a spectacle. They were pretending that professional wrestling was a true sport. We kids didn't know, but Izzy knew and he loved it anyway. There's even a word for it in wrestling. Kayfabe. That's Kayfabe, the suspension of disbelief. Pretending something is real when it's not. Izzy, once a 17-year-old immigrant from a little village in Ukraine, had fought a war, lost family members, built a business, lost a business, found a wife, lost a child. Why remember the sad things in life when you could decide to remember to forget? That's kayfabe. Maybe we were a little ahead of our times. When we watched Gorilla Monsoon wrestling on TV in the 1960s, who knew he would be the one to fight in the legendary battle against Andre the Giant? Or that superstar Billy Graham Style would be an inspiration for the now infamous Hulk Hogan? I don't remember ever feeling moved by a professional baseball or football game, except maybe that first Mets and Yankees game after 9/11. But the memory of my grandfather chopping chicken livers in an old wooden bowl while watching the antics of professional wrestlers brings a little mist to my eyes. Or maybe it's the onions.
Writer Meg Winslow has spent time in the woods of Westport, Connecticut, and Arizona's suburban desert, and now lives here in New York City. 7 years ago, she retired from Stanford University and a lengthy career in HIV research, and says her move to New York City still makes her smile every day. Though she types with just 2 fingers, she's been published in the New York Times Metropolitan Diary, and she has a Reader's Right essay in the upcoming issue of The Sun. She says being here in New York has provided her with the opportunity as Yaya to care for her grandchildren Penny and Jack, and to collaborate with her deaf sister Lori on their joint memoir. The story Meg shares today relates to television soap operas. At their peak in the 1970s, which was the golden era of soap operas, there were around 20 daytime soaps airing on American broadcast television networks. Today, there are just 3 left. And for Meg's sister, this is, as the title of her piece says, bad news. Please welcome back to our stage writer Meg Winslow.
My sister Lori used to photograph the TV guide before reading it. She'd prop the little magazine on a bookshelf and snap a blurry Polaroid for her scrapbook. If there was an article she liked, it was clipped and taped beside the photo. Archival stacks of eviscerated issues collected dust in her bedroom. She commanded the best seat in the house, no small feat Sunday nights, when our whole family tuned in to watch the Ed Sullivan Show. We readily accommodated Lori's passion for all things TV. As a teen, she never phoned a friend and whispered her secret crush into the receiver. Never lounged on her bed listening to records. The only singer to capture her attention was Elvis, and his hips. Lori is profoundly deaf, and for her, watching television was more than just entertainment. It was essential to her understanding the world around her. Her love affair with TV soaps started in the 60s, before closed captioning was commonplace. She is an excellent lip reader, and captions were often superfluous. Soap drama, melodrama really, is highly visual. Little is voiced off screen. The actors' faces dominate the camera lens when arguing, proposing, giving birth, telling lies, even dying. The camera pans to show a brandished gun or a nurse pocketing a lethal syringe, but quickly cuts to close-ups because the actors' faces tell the complete story. Lori watched with the intense concentration of an understudy. A body doesn't recoil, doesn't cringe without facial punctuation. Eyebrows knit, arch in horror or surprise. Mouths plead or lecture, but words aren't always required. Lips contorting in rage or a death grip speak volumes, even with the sound off. My sister lives life with the sound off. Everything off camera, out of view, must be explained. Soap Opera Digest magazine enhanced her viewing experience. More than just deciphering complex storylines, the articles showered her with idioms hearing readers take for granted. In one story, a preoccupied soap doctor appears to be losing his touch before a complicated twin delivery. Assisting staff worries he's bitten off more than he can chew, leaving the over-the-moon parents in peril of losing their babies. The raven-haired intern goes the extra mile to save the infants. 3 issues later, the writer reveals the intern pulled a fast one on the senior physician by doctoring the coffee in the break room. Dissecting the printed stories helps my sister understand English. She compiled countless lists of bewildering idioms. Our conversations were laced with explanations, taxing even my understanding of the more obscure meanings and my ability to translate into American Sign Language. Lori relished reading these stories, archiving her favorites with care and reams of Scotch tape. When Soap Opera Digest printed its final issue last year, Lori was in denial. This news was crushing, a death of sorts, sending disrupting ripples through the patterns of her day. Change has never been easy for her. Most changes in Lori's life are met with apprehension and much resistance. For her, a good day always referred to the arrival of that weekly bundle of synthesized gossip. Lori repeatedly checked the mailbox in anticipation, exhaling in relief. It came. I was concerned she wouldn't get over the loss. She hasn't. But she has adapted. Lori's interest in the few surviving soap operas remains essential to her TV viewing. She has her favorite characters and readily scowls at the TV screen when she spots a scoundrel. Lori's language skills continue to expand. With improved closed captioning and the ubiquitous TV news banners, there's actually no end in sight to her growing list of confusing idioms. And, like sands through the hourglass, these are now the days of her life.
Heidi Fettig Parton was once a girl from Bob Dylan's North Country, where the winds hit heavy on the borderline of Minnesota, not far from Canada. As an adult, she moved south, all the way to St. Paul, Minnesota, where she lives now, which makes her this show's winner of our longest commute award. So she gets a hand just for that. St. Paul is where the wind blows a little less fiercely than it did on Canada's border, and it's where Heidi's large Bernedoodle, June Carter, walks Heidi even on below zero days. A former lawyer, Heidi began writing creatively after her law school loans were finally paid off. She teaches in Bay Path University's MFA program and serves as senior editor of its literary journal, Multiplicity Magazine. She's published widely in many venues, including Brevity, Dorothy Parker's Ashes, Fugue, and Literary Mama, and her flash essay, The Once Wife, was nominated for Best American Essays 2023. Heidi's contribution to our special television event is called Here's a Story, about how real family life with three brothers in a blended family didn't quite measure up to the ideal of the Brady Bunch. And, by the way, Heidi made the mistake of telling me that she can still sing the Brady Kids song, It's a Sunshine Day, and I'm hoping one of you will ask her to do that at the reception following the show. Here to close the show, please give a Minnesota-sized welcome to Heidi Fettig Parton.
Marcia, Jan, and Cindy's lives seemed amazing in their perfectly square backyard in California. It was always warm and sunny. Cindy wore brightly colored dresses that barely covered her bum. Marcia and Jan donned stylish miniskirts. The girls' legs were never cold, and their problems were easily solved in 30-minute segments. When Marcia started receiving radio signals through her braces, these disappeared just before the credits rolled, and Jan's butt-length hair, which she regretted dyeing jet black, was easily restored to its natural golden wonder. Although the Brady sisters sometimes fought, they always made up by the time they retired to their shared bedroom with the pink floral wallpaper. Sure, they had lost their dad at some point in the past, but they had a new dad, Mike. Mike was a dreamy, dark-haired, blue-eyed architect who owned a large mid-century modern house that featured a central stairway with open steps that led to an expansive upper level. In contrast, my family's home was a one-story ranch. The only stairway led down to a damp below-ground basement. A so-called latchkey kid, I walked home from grade school in hip-deep northern Minnesota snow, praying my older brothers had remembered to return our shared key to its hiding place in the garage. Sometimes I'd spend an hour sitting on the steps waiting for one of my brothers to show up. Mom, a grade school teacher, was not home to greet me, nor did we have a convivial housekeeper smiling at me in a bright blue dress. My dad, an earth science teacher, was preparing the next day's lesson plans at his junior high across the river, and my high school age brothers were at sports practice or after-school jobs. The only one home, a cat my three brothers had named Catboy, long before I could talk, howled at me in his loud Siamese voice. Done sleeping, he was ready to hunt the fields behind our house. With Catboy outside, I was alone. Marcia, Jan, and Cindy had three brothers too, but their brothers were closer in age and joined them in carrying out all sorts of schemes to make their happy mom and dad even more happy. My brothers and I did not scheme to make our parents happy. We recognized the futility of such an endeavor. Instead, at night, we huddled around our only TV, located in the basement. To tune out our parents' arguments, my brothers and I turned up the volume on shows like 8 is Enough, my choice, or Star Trek, their choice. Star Trek usually won. Unlike Marcia, Jan, and Cindy, I didn't have sisters to come to my defense when my brothers ganged up on me. The worst was when my oldest brother dragged me into the back of the windowless laundry room, left me next to Catboy's smelly litter box, and then ran to turn off the light. While he laughed on the other side of the closed door, I gingerly felt my way along the wall in the pitch black room until I reached the light switch. Groovy Greg would never do such a thing. Assuming I'd gotten into the house, I would fix myself milk and cookies if my brothers hadn't already devoured the many batches Mom had baked the prior weekend. Growing up with 3 hungry brothers, I learned to hoard food, to eat the good stuff while it was around. Cookies in hand, I'd descend to the basement where I twisted a small metal knob until click. As the TV warmed up, I turned a larger dial, selecting one of 3 channels, 4 if the wind blew just right. Before settling onto the tweed sofa Catboy sometimes used for sharpening his claws. As perky voices began to sing, "Here's a story," I covered myself with a blanket crocheted by my grandma. For an hour, the TV was all mine to enjoy with my 3 afternoon sisters.
Can I have the writers all come back and join us here on stage? All the writers, come on up. Yep. So we built Writers Read around 50 some odd other afternoons just like this one. And I am so proud of what a small group of committed, unpaid volunteers has accomplished and continues to build with me, that continues to build community and camaraderie and stories. Thank you again to City Winery and to all of you for your support in our efforts here today. Please do tell your friends about us. Please remember to take that program home with you and pass it along to someone who you think might be interested in what we're doing. Please do consider a charitable tax-deductible donation, if you would. We can't do what we do without your encouragement and support, so this round of applause from us here on the stage is for all of you. This is from us to you. Please do, if you don't have to rush off, please do join us in the gallery for a little reception, a little charcuterie and conversation. But before we do that, we have one more thing to do, and we actually rehearsed this before you got here, so I hope we get it right. Hold on.